युवाओं की दुनिया लाइक्स, स्वाइप्स और रील्स की दुनिया है, लेकिन क्या पॉलिटिक्स और गवर्नेंस इस दुनिया से कनेक्ट कर पाते हैं? इस सवाल का जवाब देने के लिए हमारे साथ हैं a very dynamic leader, Milind Deora.
So give it up for Mr. Milind Deora. Can we have you on stage, sir? And of course, a little bit of band to welcome, sir. And here we hand over the mic to our lovely colleague, Padmaja. There you go.
Thank you so much, Aditi and Arun. It's only fitting that Milind Deora should be welcomed on stage with all this music. He's made the transition from being a very, very popular musician to a very, very popular politician. Milind Deora, again, thank you very much for being here in our midst and kicking off NDTV Yuva. Huge round of applause again. So, Mr. Deora, I want to start by asking you, in the last few days, the word Gen Z has been in a lot of currency. First of all, what do you make of the Gen Z in our country? If one was to ask you, Gen Z India, what would you say to them? Or what would come to your mind?
Well, firstly, thank you for bringing NDTV Yuva to Mumbai. What does Gen Z mean to me? Besides the fact that the average age of Gen Z is about 20 years, that we are the largest global cohort of Gen Z, almost a quarter of our country is in that age bracket. Gen Z to me means aspirations, wanting something very, very quickly, not wanting us as politicians to talk down on them, but to engage with them at the same level. And I think in my profession, if I look at what's happened recently in Nepal, it's very, very critical for us as a political community, regardless of which party we belong to, regardless of which ideology we belong to address the issues that really matter to these young people, not issues that are disconnected from them, and to communicate in the language that they understand, through the platforms that they understand, through the mediums that they understand. So I think Gen Z is aspirational, Gen Z is hungry, Gen Z is motivated, and it's for us to figure out a way to channelize that motivation, that aggression, that aspiration towards something more positive.
You know, it's interesting you say that we want to channelize this aggression and I would say a little bit of restlessness that our Gen Z has. I would actually like to call them Yuva. पूरी दुनिया उनको Gen Z बुला रही है. I think हमारे देश में है Yuva is a better idea. Why borrow what somebody else is using? तो हमारे देश के जो युवा हैं, उनको अब बोला जा रहा है कि भाई आप भी सड़कों पर उतरो, जैसे कि नेपाल में उतरे हैं. हमारे देश में क्या कुछ चल रहा है? क्या आपको लगता है जिस तरीके से Gen Z नेपाल में थे, हमारे भारत के युवा उस तरीके से सड़कों पर आने को तैयार हैं? We could see something like that happening.
देखिए, सबसे पहले भारत और नेपाल में बहुत अंतर है एंड हमें भारत को नेपाल या श्रीलंका या बांग्लादेश से कंपेयर नहीं करना चाहिए. भारत के युवा, नेपाल के युवा, भारत के युवा, श्रीलंका और बांग्लादेश के युवा में बहुत फर्क है. सो एनी पॉलिटिशियन who might be calling on Gen Z and the youth of India to go out and protest on the streets, to go out and create mayhem on the streets, is doing a disservice to the Yuva themselves. And I don't think young people will take those politicians very seriously. But there is a larger point and a larger theme at play, which is around the world. If you look at democracies from the United States to India, if you look at protests now in US campuses, you called it restlessness, I call it aspiration. If the aspirations are not channelized properly, it becomes restlessness. If that restlessness is not addressed quickly enough, it can become mayhem. So, for us as a political community, it's very clear creating opportunities, addressing the issues that matter to them are very important. Today, for example, I'm sure all the young people present here, beyond the traditional ideological divides, are you left, are you right, people are concerned about jobs, healthcare, education, air pollution? Can I become an entrepreneur? Can I become a sports person? Beyond when I look at politics, beyond just liking and swiping, can I lead? So these are the opportunities that we have to create for the youth of the future.
But do you think you're being able to communicate with Gen Z in our country in a language that they understand? Is there a communication gap? Because I'll tell you why. The last Lok Sabha that we've had is the oldest Lok Sabha. The average age of our MPs is consistently going up. Our demographics are getting younger. We have a greater segment of Yuva in our midst. And our politicians, our Lok Sabha is getting older and older.
You know, I was one of the youngest members of parliament in 2004, and I said it then, I'll say it again. I don't think the youth of India, उम्र के आधार पर वे कभी भी भेदभाव नहीं करते. I don't think youth are saying कि it has to be a young person, not an older person. Today, for example, let's say the Prime Minister, he just turned 75 years. Whether it's through Instagram, whether it's through other platforms, whether it's through Man Ki Baat, is able to connect with the youth more effectively than, say, a younger politician. So, एज के आधार पर हमें भेदभाव नहीं करना चाहिए, लेकिन जिस व्यक्ति, जिस राजनेता के विचार परिवर्तनशील है, somebody who wants to do something which is change worthy, someone who wants to do something disruptive, that's what appeals to the youth of our country.
नहीं तो आप क्या कह रहे हैं, बेहतर युवा नेता कौन है? वो जो कि खुद को युवा नेता बोलते हैं या जिन नेता के साथ आप काम करते हैं?
नहीं, मैं कह रहा हूं,
Who's the real Gen Z politician today?
I mean, in my opinion, one of the politicians who's communicating very effectively, not from my party, but despite that, who we must give credit to, who's effectively reaching out to the young people through different platforms, on cultural issues, social issues, economic issues, political issues, would be the Prime Minister. It's very rare for a country where you have a third-term head of state to still be engaged with an aspirational generation like Gen Z. And I think he's doing that effectively. But it's important for all politicians, as I said in my earlier statement, that regardless of which party you come from, to stay engaged, to understand, to have a dialogue with them. I think this generation will not accept any political leader who is indulging in a monologue. मैं यदि खड़ा होकर मैं केवल उनको भाषण दूंगा, आपको ये करना है, आपको ऐसे एक नागरिक बनना है, people will not accept that. We have to have a dialogue with the youth of our country. I have to know what they are thinking, what are their concerns. Today, they know as much about governance as someone who's experienced for 20 years as me. They will have more disruptive ideas on how to reach the last mile and deliver a government service in a rural area or an urban area than someone like me who's been in politics for 20 years. And if I'm sitting on a high chair thinking that I have all the solutions and I'm going to shove those solutions down your throat, then you'll have a problem.
क्या यहाँ पे जितने लोग हैं, किनको लगता है कि मिलिंद देओरा इफेक्टिवली जेन जी से, युवा से कम्युनिकेट कर रहे हैं? आपको लगता है, डू वी ऑल अग्री? क्या मिलिंद देओरा, आप युवा नेता, आपसे जेन जी से कम्युनिकेट कर रहे हैं? आपको मिलिंद कौन बेहतर लगता है? क्या जेन जी नेता हैं? I won't include you because you are here and you have to answer. नरेंद्र मोदी, राहुल गांधी, आदित्य ठाकरे, एकनाथ शिंदे.
I would say at a national level, there's no doubt in my mind that Narendra Modi is a very, very effective communicator engaging with this section of society. Certainly, I believe that in Maharashtra, for people who understand the nuances of Maharashtra, there is Maharashtra is the fastest urbanizing state in the country. Maharashtra is one of the most industrial states in the country. To talk to people from rural areas, urban areas, in different languages, we are a cosmopolitan state. I would certainly give credit at a local level to Eknath Shinde for doing that, for understanding the aspirations. But as I said, Padmaja, which politicians are truly engaging with the young people, are coming on platforms like this to hear what they have to say. Those are the politicians, I think, who will effectively engage.
But we are told these days कि आप लोग ना तो push-up कर रहे हो, ना आप jujitsu कर रहे हो, ना आपकी reels viral हो रही हैं.
It's good. These are things which
millions में reels जा रही हैं जननायक की.
People must do these things. Nothing wrong in that. I see nothing wrong if a young politician is doing push-ups, if a young politician is doing things that Gen Z wants. So there's no shame in saying that I'm connecting to the youth or I'm trying to connect to the youth. And I think that now this number has become so large, it's reached a critical mass where no political force on earth can ignore them. I mean, the numbers globally, around 30% of the world's population are Gen Z, between the age of 13 to 27, 28. So I can see, in fact, in the United States, a country where I studied when I went to do get my higher education from, that when I look at college campuses, which are erupting with protests, with very violent protests like you see in Nepal, that's largely because politicians have forgotten how to connect with them, or politicians are not in a dialogue with the next generation.
You know, you entered politics and became a member of parliament when you were in your early 20s. In your late 20s, you had already become a minister. From then to now, how different is it to be in public life and politics? Because now everyone is judging you real time. You give a speech, somebody comes on your timeline and says, excellent, or kya bakwas hai, jhoot bol rahe hain. How do you deal with this new politics in 5G, times of 5G?
It's like your profession. It's the same for the media. I mean, back in the day when I entered politics at the age of 27 in 2004, what mattered to a politician was an article written in favor of you or against you in a newspaper. Today, it's the reel that matters. Is it a good story? Is it a good reel? Is it going viral? So, the mediums have changed. The issues in many ways remain the same. And I'll be very candid with you. 20 years ago, the young generation of India, people who were in their early 20s, they had similar aspirations as today's young generation. They would also tell me that we don't want to be divided on issues like caste and religion. We are aspiring for clean air quality. We want to be entrepreneurs. We want to build some of the world's top tech companies in India. Can you facilitate that ecosystem? Can you get us access to the best universities? Can you create economic opportunities right here in India so we don't have to get educated here and then travel overseas to get a job? And that remains the aspiration of young Indians today. So that's what we have to live up to.
What's the funniest reel ever that someone made about you, or the funniest comment which you were just like, I don't know where that came from?
I'm not sure if there's a funny reel ever made about me, but well, sometimes, you know, as I mentioned to you that as a guitar player, one of my early opponents who, when I was in my first election, I was 27 years of age and she was in her late 60s. And I had returned from the United States after getting my higher studies, and she would say, "Ye Boston se guitar bajane wala neta hai, and main sthanik neta hu," and those kinds of things would create, they would create some kind of controversies. But again, the mediums have changed, but the issues remain the same.
You know, you said that now our Yuva is more aspirational, and the issues that matter to them are things like, you know, are jobs being created, is my air clean? And yet, just a month ago, we had the entire city of Mumbai seeing people who were sitting there in, on the streets at Azad Maidan saying that we want reservation. My question is, sure, we can have a discussion about, the merits of reservation, historical needs, etc. But how do we ever plan in the 21st century to go forward if everyone is trying to get themselves labeled as backward? How is it that you are going to tell the people of our country, we're going back into caste politics, but we are a 21st century country, which is, trying to become the third largest economy?
So there's a few things. One is there's a huge difference between going back and becoming more casteist and giving people who deserve some form of affirmative action their rights. And I think politics in India is divided between the two categories. There is one section which believes that people who are backward are traditionally backward due to legacy systems. One way of empowering them, one way of giving them equal rights is through reservation. There are other political parties who encourage casteism, which is extremely dangerous. So I'm not in favor of those things. But I'll tell you one point which I came across in a survey a few months ago. Since you mentioned Mumbai, I'm not sure how many of the youth here are from Mumbai and maybe from other parts of the country. But now in a city like Mumbai, Padmaja, we will have an election to the municipality of the city. The Mumbai municipality is the country's richest municipality. The budget of the Mumbai municipality is larger than the budget of certain states in India. To encourage governance, whether it's a pothole on your road, whether it's flooding that happens during monsoons, whether it's access to affordable hospitals and schools. One concern I have about Gen Z, besides the fact that Gen Z also spends too much time on their mobile phones, is voting percentages. When it comes to civic elections versus, say, a parliamentary election, is very, very low. Yet, sometimes Gen Z is voting for parliamentary elections on civic issues. So the place where, if you want your local community to improve, whether you live in a city or a rural area, the place where you can get better governance is by increasing your participation in local elections.
So the Gen Z over here, are you going to be voting for the Mumbai municipal elections? I can't hear you. If this is how loud you are going to have 2% turnout again. Louder. Are you assuring Milind Deora you're going to surprise him this time around when there are elections to the BMC?
Please vote for any party, but please go out and vote. It's very, very important.
Okay. Can we have a round of applause for the Gen Z here who have promised? And when they don't turn up, we are going to come back for the next Yuva and ask you why. Because it's all very well sitting here in an air-conditioned hall and making promises that you don't keep. The aspirations of Mumbaikars, you've been now in government. Why is it that even now there are many issues which aren't addressed towards the youth? Can you confidently say that there are still youth-oriented schemes that your government has managed to bring in?
Absolutely.
How are you reaching out to the youth in particular?
The state government, for instance, has an apprentice scheme. The central government has an apprentice scheme. The state government provides a form of scholarships for people, for young people. Largely the people who take benefit of that are from rural areas, people from very underprivileged backgrounds. So that is one area. But look, Padmasha, beyond giving a dole and a handout, that's another aspect of Gen Z. I don't think Gen Z wants doles and handouts from the government. I think Gen Z is telling us that create an ecosystem, create the infrastructure, create a regulatory environment that encourages innovation. We will do the rest.
And yet you brought in Ladki Behna scheme before the election.
Well, that's again a scheme for needy women. That's a separate issue. Today in Mumbai, which is very unique to, let's say, the NCR region or Delhi. In the NCR region, I always say, you have 4 states really competing for the NCR pie. The MMR region, or the Mumbai metropolitan region, which now will go from South Mumbai all the way to Palghar, comes all under one state. And for the first time, I can confidently say, as somebody who's been at it for the last 20 years, that we're finally building the enabling environment that will create the ecosystem that Gen Z needs to prosper and flourish in the city. We have now, in the next few days, the inauguration of the Navi Mumbai Airport. Mumbai Airport today is the world's busiest single runway airport. We'll have a second airport there. In the years to come, we'll have a third airport in an area called Palghar. We're going to build one of the world's largest ports in an area called Vadhavan, which is north of Mumbai. So when I look at this entire region, the Mumbai metropolitan region, it's going to resemble a large metropolitan area like you have in the US, in the UK, where you have several airports, you have several ports, you have several clusters of economic activity happening. And the Mumbai metropolitan region will not just be one of the largest economic contributors to the state, but it will be one of the largest economic contributors to India. So I'm very proud of that. And I'm very proud that the government today is looking at Mumbai as an enabling environment for young people who want to innovate, who want to create the startups of the future. By not just saying that our competition is Delhi or Ahmedabad or Chennai or Bangalore or Kolkata, but by dreaming big, by saying that our competition is Singapore in the East, it's Dubai in the West. And that's the kind of vision we need to actually create that enabling environment that these young people want.
But why is it in terms of optics, whenever somebody talks about, the two main alliances, and the fact is whether it be university politics, generally the kind of outreach that happens, the optics seem to suggest that your alliance is a very, how do I say it, not very youthful. It's generally seen that, there's a Congress hai, Shiv Sena hai, left hai in particular. They are very popular in universities among the young people, bade youthful se log hai. Jabki aapka thoda zyada traditional hai, Shiv Sena hai, BJP hai, bade old fashioned kisam ki parties.
See,
hai.
Mumbai doesn't have
modern parties nahi hai.
Mumbai doesn't have the same university political culture that, let's say, Delhi has. In Delhi University, for instance, elections are a huge thing. Parties get involved. We don't have that in Mumbai, thankfully. And I think it's good to keep politics out of Mumbai's universities. Mumbai in that way, Padmaja, for folks who come in from Delhi, is very, very different. We are a far more depoliticized society than New Delhi is. People here are more focused on economic opportunities. People here are more focused on cultural opportunities. We are proud that in this city we're the financial hub of the country. We're also the entertainment and creative services hub of the country. Today, a lot of young people, for instance, they don't want the traditional jobs that they may have studied today. They may have studied finance and commerce, but they don't want a job in finance. Today, in a city like Mumbai, they can get a job in creative services. They can get a job in gaming, the legal gaming, not the illegal gaming which has been banned. But now in gaming, huge industry. Today, for instance, a company based in Mumbai, 30% of the world's, of Hollywood's movies, the visual effects of those movies are made in a company in Mumbai. So these are the things that young people are aspiring to. And I think that environment is being created for it.
No, that is great, but I meant more like culturally. Culturally, do you think that the right of center parties, such as yourself and the BJP, tend to not have the kind of resonance that the left of center parties do?
In universities?
No, in general. In general, if somebody was to say,
I mean, how would you say that? Because look at the electoral numbers. Look where the left is today in the country. Look where the left is in their bastion, West Bengal. Look where the left is in a state like Tripura. Except for Kerala, the left doesn't exist anymore. I'll give you an example. In Maharashtra, for instance, as part of the Red Corridor, the Naxal-affected region across India, Maoist extremism, left-wing extremism, there was a region in Maharashtra, there's a region in Maharashtra called Gadchiroli, which was heavily affected by left-wing extremism, violence, killing of paramilitary forces, police. Politicians couldn't go there. You couldn't bring governance there. You couldn't bring infrastructure there. Today, Gadchiroli has turned 180 degrees. From being a hub of Naxal violence, today Gadchiroli is well on its way to becoming the steel hub of India, where steel companies are setting up factories in Gadchiroli to mine iron ore and create economic opportunities. So that can happen. And the same Gen Z in Gadchiroli, who are very different from urban Gen Z living in Mumbai, who otherwise were forced because of a lack of opportunities to take up arms against the government. Today they're going and seeking jobs. Today they want education. The same thing is happening in a state like Kashmir. Today, after the abrogation of 370, young people, women who in Kashmir never worked in the tourism industry, you see more and more young women working in hotels. More and more young people, Kashmiris, demanding more universities, more hospitals, more skill training centers, more economic opportunities, more hotels, more tourism. So that's what's changed. So it shows you that when there's political will, when there's a focus to actually get these things done, Gen Z responds.
so outside of the social media bubble, also a world exists. Finally, I want to ask you, Milind, as somebody who entered politics early, who's had a very long career now, a fairly long career in politics, much more ahead. For anyone who wants to enter politics today, what would be your single piece of advice of lessons that you have learned the hard way?
My single piece of advice would be, firstly, don't think of politics and politicians as people who are from another planet, who are alien to you. We are ultimately representatives of the people of India. Don't think of us as having an easy job. Politics is a difficult job. So being a politician is a 24/7 job. You're always on the go. It's very difficult with your family life. But when you choose politics, and if you choose that you want to stay engaged and you want to contribute to society, I have no doubt in my mind that whether you become an entrepreneur, whether you become a professional, whether you become a influencer on social media, the greatest way to bring about change in society is through politics. And there are many ways to get into politics. One extreme way would be join a political party, become a political activist, hopefully fight an election. A simple way would be just by voting. So for example, if you're a young person in Mumbai and you're concerned about civic apathy, You're concerned about civic issues. The opportunity for you will come in 4 months' time when there will be a municipal election. Go out and cast your vote. You can't have a city like Mumbai where you're the most progressive society in the country and you have just about 12 or 13% of Gen Z going out and voting in a civic election. That number has to go to 70%, 80%. The first step before voting, go and check if you're registered to vote. To be fair to the Election Commission, things have changed drastically in the last 20 years. When I first fought an election, if a young person came to me and said, I want to vote, I had to physically help them to get registered to vote in the Election Commission office. Today, you can do that in 1 second on your mobile phone. Check if you're registered to vote. If you're not registered, go out and vote. Get registered. Then make sure on election day, you stay involved and go out and vote.
That's going to be your first engagement, your first step towards politics. You'll remember your promise. Yuva, everyone present here in the audience. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up for Milind Deora. Thanks very much, Mr. Deora, for having joined us. And we will see you again soon after the BMC elections. Best of luck. Thank you.